Are you ready for the next speaker of IBF? You can clap for yourselves, by the way. Okay, so without any further ado, today's next speaker, he has worked with Fortune hundreds and successfully led transformation and implementation in organizations as large as 126,000 people. He's a consultant and advisor on the areas of strategy, leadership, and performance. Please join me in giving a very warm welcome to Mr. Azfar Mir.
All right. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. I am so excited to be here. First of all, Sohail, wherever you are, he's right over there. Let's give him a big hand. This is unbelievable. Thank you so much. It's an honor and a privilege to be here. I will just be sharing with you some learnings and lessons that we've learned over the last decade and a half working with clients almost across the globe. My first one, actually I'll be sharing with you and going across two things, 4 principles and 5 result areas. So 5 result areas and 4 principles. The 4 principles I'll tell you in front, which are learn, love, live, and lead. Say them with me. Learn, love, live, lead. I may ask you when I'm sharing a lesson with you, which one of the principles I'm talking about, okay? Are you with me? The first lesson, just like in life, is a test, because life gives us a test before it gives us the lessons. So, are you ready for the test? All right. Here we go. All we have to do, you've been doing this since the morning, you've been clapping. All we have to do is clap together, okay? You'll allow me to lead. You can leave your notebooks, bring your hands forward, and all you have to do is clap together with me once. Are you ready? Okay? Karachi, bright and early in the morning, this is your test, okay? Are you ready? Not so much. Okay. Let's allow us to add method to this. This is how we develop people, right? So we add method to something. And the method is, I will say 3, 2, 1, go. Okay? We will all clap when I say go. Someone from the back, please yell out, when will we clap? When I say go. Okay. We will clap when I say go. Someone from the front, we will clap when I say go. All right. Now, hands 1 foot apart, okay? I see some of you, the hands are like that. Some of the hands are like this. 1 foot apart. I know some of you are sitting with your leg up and just relaxing at the back, which is fine. But for a moment, if you can just come forward, okay? We need to do this, and we need to do this right. Hands 1 foot apart. Let's also warm up our shoulders a little bit, okay? Rotate your shoulders forward. Come on. You can do it. It's easy. All right. Are you ready? We've got to do this together, guys. This is the test, all right? 1 foot apart. Focus. You will clap when I say. All right. 3, 2, 1. Go! Karachi. What's happening? Am I okay? Thank you so much. We'll do this again, okay? I believe in you. I believe in you, Karachi. All right. Hands 1 foot apart. Are you ready? 3, 2, 1. Come on! You will clap when I say. All right, let's do this. 3, 2, 1. Who did that? Please stand. Okay. 3, 2, 1, go! Fantastic. Give yourselves a big hand. Well done. Just like listening is not learning and telling is not training, everyone is not listening to what the leader says, but everyone is listening to what the leader does. Absolutely. If we're leading for results, that's the #1 lesson, right? Everyone's listening to what the leader does. I'm gonna show you something, and I will ask you, what's wrong with that picture? I'm assuming everyone has traveled, has been in an airline, has gone through the safety briefing in an airline. Tell me what's wrong with that picture? Oh, exactly. And how many times have we heard this? This person has the presence of mind to take a selfie when things are going wrong. So he's not, there isn't, I mean, he's not like he's sleeping, he's up, he's awake, he wants to take the selfie, but you're right, the mask is not on the nose. You know how many creative ways airlines have found to carry out this training? Imagine the millions, if not the hundreds of millions that have been spent. There is a picture here on the top right, which is one of my favorite ones, which is from The Hobbit. And this is, can you imagine that level of production to make these films, to communicate the message? And the message is, in the event of an emergency, the mask will drop in front of you. Cater to yourself first before you cater to others by placing the mask on your mouth and nose. Here's another guy. This is earlier this year. Not a single person, not a single person. And over 95% of the way we're developing leaders is by doing something like what the airlines are doing. We're training them. Training doesn't work. 15 years ago, I presented a paper. By the way, people ask me, you're a trainer, right? And I say, I don't know, you define it, because the paper was titled, Learning is Broken. It doesn't work. I was at WashU. There were people from the board of ATD and organizations as large as Boeing. And you know what the board of ATD came and said to me? They said, we've been thinking exactly that. We just didn't articulate in that way. And that gave me the opportunity to be invited on their board and work with them for several years, because we need to elevate the profession. It doesn't work. We just don't entertain people and develop them, right? Okay, so how do we do that? It's not, you know, when you go to a doctor and the doctor says, Azfar, you got to work on your health. Ab aap chawal bhi nahi kha sakte, roti bhi nahi kha sakte, and he goes on for about 5 minutes with what I cannot do. And if I in a very scared tone and respectfully ask, to doctor sahab, main kya kha sakta hu? So he will say, abhi to bata hai. Chawal nahi kha sakte, roti nahi kha sakte, and he goes on and repeats that list. So it's important to tell people what not to do, but it's also important to identify what do we do. So here I was, this is about 5 years ago, we were in our house in St. Louis. My younger son was about, I think, 2 years old, and he was fascinated by water. This is how this story starts. One of the Superman movies was about to come out, so on the TV, they were showing the old Superman movies. You know how they do that, right? And so Lewis Lane falls off the waterfall in Canada, the horseshoe fall, the Niagara Fall, and then comes Superman, and he goes and rescues it. My older children were saying, that looks so fake, because of the old motion graphics. My younger son said, and he couldn't speak a lot of words, but he said, he pointed to the TV screen, he said, water. Right? Because he was fascinated by water. It just so happened there was a long weekend and it was only a 15-hour drive. And someone gave us the idea, my older two, let's go to Niagara Falls. So we went to Niagara Falls. So it was a completely unplanned trip. But here's what we found there. When we got there, there was a mile-long media buses outside the hotels. We hadn't even booked the hotel, so I thought, oh my God, this is going to be one of our last-minute disasters, perhaps. Let's try to find a hotel. There's something going on. This gentleman's name is Nick Valanda, and he was walking the tightrope from the American side to the Canadian side. And we thought, wow, we just happened to be in the same hotel floor as he was staying. And because we were hungry, we went to have this sort of food or this buffet there, and he was there, and he was having a fight with the ABC network. And the fight with the ABC network was, I do not want to be tethered. If you see, there's a small tether and a clamp on the rope right behind him, right? So that's for safety. He didn't want to be tethered. And ABC was saying, our insurance will not allow us to do this if you're not tethered. And I found the fight to be really interesting because they were talking about his safety, but he didn't want to do that. So we got into this conversation, and I learned a few things. And one of the things that I learned, well, my children lost interest in the whole thing because he had to be tethered. And I asked them, well, why do you lose interest? It's for his safety. And they said, well, you know, there's no thrill in it. And I thought, okay. Nick Valanda said that he is doing this because he's inspired by somebody else. And I think that's where the lesson is. He's inspired by this gentleman called the Great Blondin. He was the first one to walk the tightrope on Niagara. And he's quite a story. The first time he did this, he went and came back, okay? And when he was about 70% of the way back, he stopped. He put the balance beam on the tightrope. He turned around and he did what's called a backflip or a back somersault on the rope. It was beyond anyone's imagination or expectation, right? And so he started to get a huge following, right? He was then called the Great Blondin. People were wearing these leather jackets with his name, big following. He would go to various places of the world and do this, and people will follow. The second time he came to the Niagara, he was on the tightrope. He was holding what is called a wheelbarrow, okay? He was holding what's called this, a wheelbarrow. They were about he had done this, by the way, in between, blindfolded also. He walked the tightrope blindfolded. And here he was. There were over 100,000 people there. He's holding a wheelbarrow before he's about to walk, and he asks the crowd a question. And the question is, do you believe that I can do this? Okay? Now, you're going to be that crowd, and I'm going to be enacting the Great Blondin, and I'm going to ask you that question, and you tell me, with your best judgment, how that crowd responded. Can you imagine 100,000 people really excited, big fans? And he said, do you believe that I can do this? And the crowd said, yes. Yeah, well, a little bit more belief. Okay, let's everyone say this. We've got to really get into this situation. Okay, so he said, do you believe that I can do this? And they said, yes. They said, yes. I mean, they were screaming and yelling. He said, no, hang on. Listen to what I'm saying. Do you really believe that I can do this? And they even louder said, yes. Yes. The belief seems to be going down in the room, though. So he said, focus on the word belief. And he asked the question for the third time. And they said, even louder together? Yes. Yes. And he said, okay, well then who will come and sit in the wheelbarrow? Over 100,000 people. How many hands do you think went up? Not a single hand went up. My goodness. That's what happens in organizations, right? Do you believe we can achieve Vision 2020? Everyone's like, yeah. Commitment requires practice, right? So, okay. So then what happened? So he had people plugged into the audience. And, you know, these people were going to different people in the audience saying, this is the Great Blondin. He did this blindfolded last time. Go on, it's okay. Nothing's going to happen to you. And they were saying all of that, where one of his, you know, team members got really excited and he started pushing people along. And you know what that crowd in that area did? What did they do? They said, if you're so excited and you believe him in a lot, why don't you go and sit in the wheelbarrow? Now, there's such a thing as peer pressure, so there was a lot of peer pressure. So Great Blondin said that I saw a hand in the crowd coming up like this. Right? And he said, he just put some weight in the wheelbarrow and he did that. But that person that you see on his back is that team member, and they came back years later and they did this. All right? He did the same thing, but with this team member on his piggyback, right? Now, let me ask you this. The first time they did this, where do you think they did it? On Niagara? No, they did it on the floor. Months later, they were on a tightrope connected to 2 trees 3 feet over the ground. Commitment requires practice. The magic is in the action. That is the absolute first lesson. Think about it. all of the development that takes place where there is life and death at stake, the development is completely different, and it is simulation or practice-based, right? Airline pilots, you don't give them a book, you don't tell them a story, you don't just put them in a plane, right? Surgeons, armed forces, there is a series of rounds of practice and feedback and practice and feedback and improvement before that trust develops. So development is exactly like that. It's like the Chinese bamboo tree, right? So do you know about the Chinese bamboo tree? It takes 5 years for the Chinese bamboo tree to come from underneath the ground. So you sow the seed, it takes 5 years. Imagine you're watering that area after sowing the seed. What will people say and come and, what will people who look at you come and say to you? What are you doing? It's obviously not working, right? And then it sprouts. But when it does, in about, the estimates are in about 9 months, it can go up about 90 meters, right? 90 feet. So then the growth happens really quickly. And that's developing people. It's nurturing, it's allowing for those mistakes. But it cannot happen without the practice. Okay, so I'm going to share with you the result areas. It's leading for result. One of the biggest mistakes made and the differentiator between organizations that are led for results, well, the number one question then becomes results in what areas? What results are we talking about? And so with all our work and our belief, and this is where our service framework is founded, that for an organization to grow and sustain that growth in the long term, they have to build and maintain what's called customer capital. It's a relationship with the customers. We are in what I believe, by the way, say this word with me, say X, P, re-onomy, experionomy. What does that word mean? Have you ever heard that word before? Of course not, because I just made it up, right? Experionomy. We are in the experience economy. It is the only differentiator, right? The goods, products, services can be matched. It's the experience that people take away that differentiates, and that experience is the foundation of building what is called customer capital, which is measured with things such as share of heart, but ultimately the result of that is that our customers become our advocates. I didn't initially plan to tell you the story, but my father's in the room somewhere in the back, which excites me really. And there's a story, there was a talk like this, and someone after the talk came to me and said, "Are you Azhar Mir's son?" And I said, "Yes, I am." And he said to me, I'm going to give you the short version, he said, "You know, the first 3 years of my career, I've cursed that man," okay? Now, this was a shock to me, because normally when people, all my life, people say, "Are you Azhar Mir's son?" "Oh my God, he's so inspirational. Oh my God, you know, we've learned a lot from him." And for the first time, someone said that to me, and I was like, "What? What do you mean?" And he said, "Well, let me tell you, I was in Lahore, I was a salesperson, I was working with 3M, and I was selling these plates to various our clients, and wherever I went, everyone said, 'No, hum to Mir Saab se kharidenge.'" And so he thought, who is Mir Saab, right? Because there was this market captured. And so that was the reason he was cussing him. Well, I then asked my father, I said, what was that about, you know? And I also told him the name, etc. And he said, well, it wasn't a fair fight, because I had about 45, a team of 45, and this gentleman was working on his own. And I know a little bit about his career and when he was working in sales, and I said, well, you had a team of 45? What do you mean? And he said, yeah, I had a team of 45, and he was working alone. And then he explained that he had 45 customers who would sell on his behalf. After a little while, he felt that his job was just too easy, so he actually asked to move to a different role. And so customers becoming advocates, that's the essence of customer capital. We've got to climb inside of them and into their minds and into their hearts and move something there so that they become salespeople for us. Customer capital. Now, how is customer capital built? There are 4 other forms of capital that feed into customer capital, okay? They are, and it starts, and the sequence is really important. They're all interconnected, but the sequence is really important. It starts with leadership capital. That's number 1. the four that feed into customer capital. The second one is talent capital. The third one is organizational capital. And the fourth one is brand capital. And I'll ask you some questions so that you can assess your own company very, very quickly. Just one question each. So when it comes to leadership capital, do you believe in your organization, be honest to yourself, that you have effective leaders at all levels of the organization? Okay? Wow, fantastic. That's amazing. And I almost believed you when you said that as well, so that's good. That's conviction, I love it, right? So you ask yourself that, and if that is the case, then that's a good place to start. If that, if you are already there, brilliant, move towards what is called talent capital. And talent capital is, are people engaged to do meaningful work effectively, right? Are they, and there's a second question, most people in my organization are successful in their work. And that's a really important question. And it goes to organizational capital, which I'll come to in a minute. And then I feel a sense of alignment with the vision. So the person feels aligned with the vision of the organization, with the values of the organization. If that is the case, you have a chance of having talent capital, right? Then we move to organizational capital, which is interesting. This is one you want to write down. By the way, how many people are still enforcing the bell curve in performance management? Because it's about leadership and performance. Raise your hands. Be honest. Yeah, you have the courage. That's fine. Okay. Everyone look at them. Please stop doing that. Why? Because when subjectivity couples with pseudoscience, it's really, really bad. Imagine this for a second. And this is organizational capital, right? Systems, practices within organizations. Imagine this with me. Take a deep breath in through your nose, okay? Take a deep breath in. 7 seconds, count to 7, take a deep, long breath in. Now imagine that you are smelling the most amazing of scent, the most amazing. It is almost so refreshing, it's tingling your senses, right? Imagine that as you're doing that. Are you imagining it? Okay? Your expression should change if you're imagining it. If you're really imagining. This is about the power of imagination. Take a deep breath in. The best of smells, right? The best of smells. Now, this smell is coming from whatever cologne or perfume the person sitting next to you is wearing, okay? So now turn to them and give them that look, and appropriately, okay? But give them that look, okay? Give them that feedback with your face and your expressions that they smell really nice, okay? Let's do this, okay? So take a deep breath in. Now turn to the person sitting next to you and give them that expression, okay? Liars. Okay. By the way, the other person sitting next to you is wondering why you didn't turn to them. Okay. Now imagine this, we'll do the same thing, but imagine that the smell is horrible, okay? It's really, really bad. We've all been there, okay? Okay, you know this. Take a deep breath in. Okay, you're imagining it. Now, turn to the person sitting next to you and give them the expression you want to give them, okay? It's okay, it's okay. It's just an activity. It's safe. We're a safe environment, okay? So take a deep breath in. Imagine, horrible. It's oh my God, you cannot take it. Now turn to the person sitting next to you and give them that expression. Come on, have the courage. It's okay. All right. Now, imagine that you're sitting in the performance review room, okay? The next person who walks in smells amazing. This person has been smelling amazing for the entire year, okay? But your HR tells you you're out of the 5s, you're out of the 4s, you're out of the 3s. You got to give him the 2 or the 1. So you have to give him the although that person smells amazing, you have to give that person the bad look. Imagine you're that person. You smell amazing. You know you smell amazing. You've been smelling amazing the whole. Organization systems need to support reality, right? Now, it's not enough to tell people what not to do, so you've got to give them an alternative, which is what's the alternative to the bell curve? I'll let some of you discuss that amongst yourself, or maybe separately we can have a conversation, but there are many successful alternatives to the bell curve. Most of the clients, I'll tell you the big challenges, most of the clients, the people are much happier when we move away from it. It's the HR that starts to say, oh, but how are we going to do this? And how are we going to do that? And how do we integrate it with comp and ben now? And how do we integrate it with development? You can do all of that very successfully. So move away. Organization systems need to support reality. I'll say one more thing about performance management. Do you remember the Bhopal crisis? Do you remember the Bhopal incident, Union Carbide? Okay, imagine a pressure gauge. This is like a movie scene, okay? I'm directing it. You see a pressure gauge, and now the screen moves back. It's attached to a pipe. In the pipe, the pressure is going from the left to the right. There's a chemical that's going from the left to the right in a large tank, and that tank needs this chemical, but the pressure needs to be maintained on the pressure gauge. You don't know what it is. It just goes up to 120. But beyond 100, it becomes yellow, and beyond 120, it goes red. Okay? Now, there's a person, this is back in about 3 decades ago almost, right? There's a person who sits there. The indicator or the KPI is actionable as well. So it's really good. If the pressure gauge goes to the yellow area, you start to turn, the knob on the left, the pressure will be released a little bit and it will remain in the white, not go into the yellow. That was the job. 3 people, 8-hour shifts, were doing this. One of them, the factory manager, didn't get along with very well. And so, the factory manager really liked the person who's the guard. He didn't think this job was very difficult. So he switched them once because of a fight with this guy. But this guy knew that the gauge was not calibrated. It was off by about 20, right? It would show pressure by, when it was at 100, it would show it to be at 80. So now the guard, who's a very efficient person otherwise, is sitting on this chair. He understands what to do, but doesn't know the reality. And what happened? It went into the yellow. When it went into the yellow, it was actually in the red. The newspaper headlines on the following day were, mothers were dying in front of their children, and children were dying in front of their mothers, and they did not know how. About 6 years ago, I saw in Bhopal old women carrying these boards saying, you want Osama, we want Anderson, who was the then chief of Union Carbide. That was how horrible this incident was. Now, this is an example of a performance management system where you don't lead by lag indicators. Most of the performance management work that we do, we go into an organization, we ask, do you love your performance management system? What do you think they say? What do you think they say? No, they don't. And then, what do they equate the performance management to? The appraisal. We never use the word appraisal, but it's funny to me that everyone in the organization, non-HR professionals, start to talk about the appraisal. Performance is about planning for performance, driving performance, and evaluating performance. But what do? We mostly focus on evaluating performance. A leader's job is to do what? All year round? Is to drive performance. And you drive performance by what? Lead indicators, not lag indicators. If you look at your organizational systems and you haven't identified lead indicators in your performance management system, rethink it. And sometimes it takes a long time to understand the industry and the organization at a strategic level. I'll give you an example of one of the organizations that we work with, where one of the most important lead indicators was a GMROI. It's called the Gross Margin Return on Inventory Investment. It was something that would give you an estimate of what the lag would be, and you could do something about it now. So organization systems must support and enable people to perform at their peak, right? Right. So that's the question. My organization systems and practices are a source of competitive advantage. And then you have the scale again. And then, of course, we go to brand capital. And all you need to do is, whatever your product or company brand is, just place it in that sentence. Let's say, for example, it's Apple. You say, how does Apple make you feel? That's your question. How does it make you feel? And of course, put yourself in the customer's shoes. And it's a strength if that feeling is really good. It's not if it's not, right? And so these are the 5 forms of capital, starting with, of course, at the top, which is customer capital. So the first point is results in what areas? And of course, customer capital, we did talk about how likely are your customers to be your advocates, right? So that's the question. But if these are the results areas, then there are 4 principles that help us to do this. I've already talked about a few of them. What are the 4 principles? Wow, I'm flattered. Learn, love, live, and lead, right? Okay, so let's talk about them a little bit. What do we need to do? Do we need to play this video first? Can we play it? As a leader, all you have to do is this, okay? Can we play it? That video? Okay. As a leader, all you have to do is follow the advice.
Sue me? Huh? Get in line. I'm not gonna let him kill my film.
Wait, you realize that none of the camera equipment is on board. We have no permits, no visas.
That's why I have you, Preston.
We have no insurance. We have no foreign currency. In fact, we have no currency of any kind.
Get in there.
Who's gonna pay for the ship?
This is King Kong, by the way. Can you all hear it?
Get out of there! Come here! Step on it! Go step on it! Get up! You finished! Get up! Don't worry, Preston. I've had a lot of practice at this. I'm real good at crapping the crappers.
Red label, 80% proof to be packed in a crate marked lemonade.
You got it. Tell Maureen she doesn't have 6 hours to put on her face. If she wants to be in this picture, she gotta be on that boat.
She doesn't want to be in this picture. Maureen pulled out.
She pulled out?
Yesterday. I told you.
You said we were shooting in Singapore, right?
That's what you told her. Yeah, but we're not shooting in Singapore.
God damn it, Preston. All you had to do was look her in the eye and lie. I gotta get to a phone.
Okay, we'll pause it. What was the advice? All you have to do is look her straight in the eye and lie. So that's, of course, not the advice, right? So all you have to do is look them straight in the eye and tell the truth. Let's practice that. Here's what we will do, okay? We will take, when I do this, we will take another deep breath in. When I do this, we will exhale. Are you ready? Easy instructions, okay? Ready? 3, 2, 1. That's what you call trust building, right? People hold their breath. Very good. Now, next thing, and I'm going to build on this, the next thing you have to do is, before you exhale, have an ear-to-ear smile. I can at least see the people in front very well. So you have to have an ear-to-ear smile, which means your teeth must be showing. Now, if you haven't had the practice of smiling in a few months, we will call you up here and have you practice a little bit and then send you back, okay? Your teeth must be showing. This is another test, okay? So, inhale, smile. Fantastic, okay. Now, this time, before you exhale and after you smile, you're going to turn to the person sitting next to you, okay? Teeth must be showing, okay? It's a test. This builds up. Okay, ready? 3, 2, 1. Turn, smile, exhale. Yeah, they're looking as ridiculous as you are, so don't worry about it. Don't be laughing at somebody else now. Okay. Before you as you exhale this time, you will take out a sound, and that sound will be E. Okay? Let's do this. 3, 2, 1. Inhale. Turn, smile, E. Yeah, loving it so far. You're doing very well. Well, most of you are doing well. This time, right in the end of the E, long E, you'll have another sound, which is ding. Remember the toothpaste commercials when the model smiles and there's that sparkle on the tooth? That's what we're doing. Don't you now regret not brushing your teeth in the morning? Okay. Inhale. Turn, smile, eating. You know, I was doing this in San Fran, one of the ladies there, she actually went like that, ting, on the other person's tooth. Hopefully we didn't have that here. Okay, so now, all you have to do is to look at them straight in the eye, after the ting. Look at them straight in the eye and tell them the truth. Now, the truth needs to be something good about them, okay? Needs to be something good about. It needs to be the truth. Don't be telling a lie. It needs to be the truth. It needs to be a nice, appropriate truth. Something good about them, okay? Do you think you can do that? All right, let's do that. Inhale. Turn, smile, eating. And now share it.
Minutes.
5 minutes left. How easy was that? I see some of the ladies still going on. That's got to be a record. You got to find these people here in the top, in the front row. They're amazing people. Not only do they have leadership capital and talent capital, they also have a lot of nice things to say about each other, which is amazing. You know, once we were working with somebody and the chairman came in. It was 2 a.m. It was a board presentation the following morning. All the senior people were there. He came in. This is him doing it. It's not my opinion. He came in. We were sitting there. Everyone was a little tired. I think for the sake of humor, as he was sitting down, he got up and he just looked around and he sat down. We thought, we were a little curious. What was that about? He was like, oh, I was just counting the number of females in the room. Because if there's one, she creates trouble for everybody. But if there are two, they just create trouble for each other. And there were two there. So he's like, we're good. Again, his opinion. I may or may not agree with him, but I'm not saying that here. But I will tell you this. What I'm getting at is love. Which reminds me of my honeymoon. When we went to our honeymoon, I have to tell you this. When we went to our honeymoon, one of the countries we went to was Malaysia. And when we were there, my wife, who's in the American Express Hall of Fame, was shopping. There was one day that she said, I'm just going to shop. And I love libraries and I love bookstores. So I was in the bookstore the whole day. She was shopping. In the end, she came back and she said, I'm ready to go. And I said, okay, but I was just finishing, it was free reading. I was just finishing one of these books. And I was like, can you give me 5 minutes? She said, fine, I'll just shop in this shop. And so she started shopping for a book. She actually bought this book, and this book was titled, Women Are From Venus. No, you don't know this one. Women are from Venus, men are from hell. Okay? I just thought I'd balance the two comments, right? But yeah, we still have that book, and it's, you know, it's a humorous take on the book that we all know about. And so what I'm talking about is love. Learn. What do we need to learn? We need to learn about self. We need to learn about our people. Yes, but we need to, leading for results means bring the results front and center, and those results must be not just financial. They need to be about these 5 forms of capital that we discussed. The second part, of course, is the love. Your people must love the systems in the organization, must love the people that they work with, must but choose, first of all, to love the customer. We're working with the Prime Minister's office in the UAE. It was quite a challenging assignment. In about 4 weeks, we had to bring these experiences back to the experionomy, right? Our team was sitting in the 42nd floor of the Emirates Towers inside the Prime Minister's office. One of the experiences that we needed to bring to life, very, very interesting, was rats that were used to detect TB from spittle samples that is more effective than using lab work, and it's quicker. Okay, so that was the innovation, government-level innovation that was being practiced in Africa, in Rwanda, and the president of Rwanda was going to be here You know, the president of most countries and the premiers were going to be here in this summit called the World Government Summit. And our job was to create these 11 experiences, and one of them was about the rats. So one of the team members said, well, let's just bring the rats, because the brief was that we cannot just show it on a video. So we have to bring these experiences to life. And the best thing was just bring these rats and show them what they do, right? But the law says that you cannot bring the rats through customs. But we were sitting inside the Prime Minister's office, and the Prime Minister said, no, we cannot bring the rats. We cannot violate it. So the team started to go down a direction which sometimes, you know, teams do, and they started talking about the customer in not such a positive way. So you've got to bring them back. You've got to choose to love the customer. Bring the customer's voice to the boardroom. Critical. Promise yourself that you will be the person who does that. Bring the customer's voice to the boardroom. Make it front and center. So when you bring the love back for the customer, when you bring the love back for the people and you believe in the people and you show them that they believe in, this is what they did. They created holograms with RFID tags that people could come in and experience, looked really real. So you had presidents of countries coming in and placing these RFID tags of the spittle sample, one with TB, one without TB, and you know, the program holograms were coming and sniffing and showing whether or not they had TB. This was at the Madinatul Jumeirah in Dubai. You know who got the government, in the World Government Summit, the Innovation Award at the government level? That's a result. That was the president of Rwanda. He said that we got this result because of the way you brought it to life. The head of strategy and innovation, Huda Al-Hashimi, who walked to me, placed her hand on her heart, and she said, you're the best team we've ever worked with. And that I can track back to a moment. And that moment was when the team was giving up. And you had to show them the love and the belief for the customer and for the self and for each other. And here's my final message to you. It's called what we call the influence openness matrix. It's also the balance of leadership. The biggest challenge in leadership is the balance. It's creating a balance between two opposites. You are, in any given situation, you could be right or you could be wrong. I'm taking those extremes, but your alternative could be better than the other alternative, right? Are you with me? You can either get influenced or you can influence people. All right? So that's the matrix. It's also there in your little booklets if you like to take a visual of it. Now, when you're right and you influence others, that's great. When you're wrong, you get influence from others, that's great, right? But when you're wrong and you influence others, that's not so great. And when you're right and you get influence from others, that's not so great either. What do we see in organizations? What we see are oscillations on the right side. Whether right or wrong, we enter a communication, a conversation, wanting to influence others, or in some research suggests that some percentage of people enter into conversations just wanting to be influenced, just not having the energy or the need to influence others. Whereas the right oscillation is that balance between the dichotomy, which is influence and openness. So the shift is the pursuit of truth must come before the pursuit of influence. That's if we deconstruct where things go right and then things go wrong within organizations, they are conversations. And in those conversations, when people go into the conversation in the pursuit of influence and not the pursuit of truth, things go wrong. So I will say again, the pursuit of truth must come before the pursuit of influence and the final test. Now, if you know the answer to this question, and I'll give you just about 15 seconds to answer it, write it down, okay? If you know the answer, write it down. And the question is this: what is the angle between the hour and the minute hand when the time is 3:15? Okay? What is the angle between the hour and the minute hand when the time is 3:15? Now, how many of you, raise your hands, how many of you saying 0? How many of you saying 0? Raise your hands. Okay. Because I can hear some people. How many of you are saying 360? Yeah? Raise your hands. How many of you are saying 90? How many of you are saying 180? Okay. By the way, those are all wrong. Now, here's what's happening in our minds. What? Geometry? Angle? Do you remember kitne number aaye the? Forget about raising your hands on this one. Okay, some of you are saying, oh, interesting question, maybe a trick question, let's try to answer it, and so on and so forth, right? Now, is anyone absolutely sure that they know the answer to the question? Okay, very good. Here's what I'm going to say. I believe that each and every one of you can answer this question correctly and specifically. And it is my commitment to you that so long as you know that a full circle is how many degrees? 360 degrees, you can answer this question specifically and correctly and quickly, okay? So now stay with me. How many degrees in a full circle? 360. 360 divided by 12 is what? 12. 30, thank you. Okay, 360 divided by 12 is 30, right? Now, listen to my questions. Where exactly is the minute hand when the time is 3:15? Where exactly is the minute hand? On 3, right? Okay. Follow-up question. Where exactly is the hour hand when the time is 3:15? Okay. Now, here's where we start to go wrong a little bit, okay? So, I will rephrase my question. This is the secret. How much of its distance to 4 has it traveled? 1/4. Thank you very much. How much of its distance to 4 has it traveled? 1/4. What is 30 divided by 4? 7.5. Thank you very much. So the angle between the hour and the minute hand when the time is 3:15 is what? 7.5. Now let me ask you this. Was it difficult math to say 360 divided by 12 is? Or if it was, we've got to have another conversation. Or what 30 divided by 4 is? It's not. What's difficult? Giving people and ourselves the direction. And we do that by asking the right questions. What's difficult with leadership is asking the question. Here's the statement I'm making. We all have the potential to answer the question. Whether or not we realize the potential depends on the quality of our questions. Thank you very much for your time and your patience and lending me an ear. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Azfar. We are open for questions. Kindly raise your hands. We have 5 minutes, so we'll be taking few. If you have a question for Mr. Azfar Mir.
Wow.
And the volunteers will come to you with the mic.
Hi, my name is Shazad Tijani.
See you, yes. Yes, Shazad.
Sir, leading for result and managing for results are two different things.
Right.
In organization, managing for results are widely practiced. Now, my question is that how could this scenario could be turned around to leading for results? Thank you.
Okay.
Did you get it? Did you get my question?
Yeah, you're saying difference between leading for results and managing for results,
Yeah,
right?
but in today's organization, widely practiced is managing for result.
Right.
How could this scenario could be turned around to leading for result?
Right. And so when we say leadership capital, what is involved within leadership capital is strategy, culture, innovation, right? And I'll come to the culture piece. Of course, we all know the differences between leadership and management. Can someone share with me the difference between leadership and management? Or maybe Shazad can? Or anyone else? So many of them.
Management is basically a structured way
Right.
to get the results. And leadership, you know the result, you know the objective. Now, how to get it, that's different.
Absolutely. So you know, I asked this question once and very recently, and someone said that the difference between management and leadership is that when you're working with a manager, you know that they did the job. And when you're working with a leader, you feel that you carried out the work, right? So that's, I really connected with that. And coming back to specifically the shifting of it, is that whereas management is really critical, it's really important. For example, organization capital is a lot about management. It's about having the right systems and practices and processes in place. But leadership is about, if organizational capital is about developing enabling systems, leadership capital is about developing enabling cultures, right? And so the work that needs to be done is then on the culture. And I'll go back to the 4 principles, which are, learn, love, live, and lead. And when we're saying results specifically, then we've got to come back and be aligned and be clear on what those results might mean. But the culture is the difference. It's management will enforce it through the systems, and sometimes, those systems can be wrong, but even if they're right, leadership would enable through culture. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Definitely,
Okay.
100%.
Thank you. Okay, one last question. Are we good? I think someone's raising a hand over there, if I can see correctly. Someone here, and then someone there. I don't know. Maybe you just have time for one.
Shall I? Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
My name is Maisa Raj, and I would like to ask you this thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, can you see me? Okay. Sir, I would like to ask you this thing, that if organization is doing well and achieving whatever their targets are, right? If we come on the humanitarian ground, or HR expect, so how would we make them realize about this blind spot in the leadership?
Yeah, okay, that's great. I think that's a brilliant question. And leadership does have a lot of times this blind spot. Reminds me of a conversation I had with United Airlines president very recently. I think it's a great example. He shared how that blind spot was overcome. And I'll give you an example of a leader over here in Pakistan very recently where a similar thing happened. To me, the short answer is the connect between the leadership and the customer, okay, and the experience that the customer has. Here's what happened in United. The president said that I should go into the airline, in the airport, and then also travel the airline, and I should observe our employees and how engaged they are or not. And he said that one of them stood out. And this one that stood out the most was the person who was attendant of the gate. He was supposed to take care of the gate, the employees, the passengers going through the ramp into the airline, into the aircraft was his responsibility. And so he was like an example employee of engagement for him. And one day as he was doing his rounds, he saw this person and he looked obviously disengaged. And so he asked him. And again, it's about looking at them straight in the eye and telling the truth. And so he told the truth. He said a week ago, one of the passengers who was on the ramp going into the aircraft had a cardiac arrest. The person fell down on the ground, and I called the shift in charge. And the shift in charge response was, where exactly is the passenger? And he said, he's on the ramp. He said, so he's not on the aircraft yet. He said, yes, he's not on the aircraft. He said, can you get the person back into the gate area so we can get the flight take off on time? And when he said, when I heard this, my belief and my value alignment with the organization just fell apart. And I've been working for the organization 27 years. I've always been excited working for the organization. And now it's just, the belief is not there, right? So here's what they did. We all give organizations like a value framework, right? We can say, okay, these are our values. The values there were safety, caring, and efficiency. The conversation was, well, where did the caring go? It's this person's fault because, he didn't care. Well, it wasn't the person's fault. It was the leadership's fault because there was no priority in those values. And so they created a priority matrix where it was Number one priority was safety, number two was caring, and number three was efficiency. If, again, the leadership doesn't give a set of rules to people to make decisions, then they're not able to make the decision. If the systems support the measurement of just efficiency, they will respond to efficiency. That's what this person was doing. That's what the shift in charge was doing. A recent example, another example is when you have leadership go and do the job of the people at the floor, whether it be a factory floor or a retail floor. I had a CEO recently who did this at one of the floors, and he came back and the first thing he said to me was, Azfar, it's hard standing for so many hours. We've got to give these people a place to sit and rest and maybe introduce some mini breaks in the middle, right? So it is about experience. When we actually experience what our people experience, when you actually experience when the customers experience, then those blind spots start to go away. Does that make sense? Yeah?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. All right, I think that was my last question.
Yeah.
So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for the
Thank you,
extra
Mr.
time. Thank
Azfar.
you.
Thank you so much for your time.